This is a product review of the SONY PJ540 Camcorder HD, full 1080p support. And this is, like I said, the 540 model, which comes with 32 gigabytes of RAM internal. You could put in a micro SD card up to 64 gigs, balanced optical steady shot, and what it's not going to show you there is 9.6 megapixel image capture while recording, which is slightly greater than 4K. And some of the supplies that it comes with is, as you can tell I've already used it, an HDMI cable, so you can actually project images off the projector from a different device, which we will do to show off the projector and its abilities. It came with a not HDMI, I'm still thinking that, USB extender cable, yet no USB cable. That can be a pain, and I'll show you why later. And it comes with the USB plug-in style adapter. And why it's a pain is because one of the other features that this comes with, although this isn't actually a pain, is it has its own little USB cable if it wants to come out. There she goes, right there. Now this comes in handy for two things. You can transfer files from your computer through this, and it also, albeit a lot slower, will charge the battery as well. And this is not the battery, but it does come with a V-type battery, a small low-capacity one. Currently it's being used on the camera I'm using now to show you this one, Patchy the Pirate as it's called, the one it's mostly replacing. Again, there's where your projector is. It is a surprisingly a DLP light engine, 25 lumens, red, green, blue LED backlight. Then you got your internal power button, play button, the voice, my voice canceling button as they call it. Horrible thing, you'll see that in a demo video. Very horrible thing. And the projector button, which turns on the projector. Open up this little trapdoor here, and you have the HDMI out and projector in. They both use the same HDMI cable that has been supplied. Put it in the out slot, you output to a TV or another projector or what have not. And the projector in is you're doing the exact opposite. Then over here we have, and I do not have fingernails. The fingernails are habit. The condition of the fingers is I work with sharp objects at work, and well, yeah, that's it. That is what it is. Pardon the ugliness. Then you have a plug-in power, which is completely useless unless you buy some external pack that's not provided, and the green headphone jack there. And right next to the projector in-out HDMI is the slot for micro SD cards. In the case of when I purchased this at Best Buy, it came free with a 64 gig micro SD card, and it also came with a case. So at the time of purchase, which was late October 2014, this was the biggest and best model you could get at Best Buy, at least the one in Worcester, Massachusetts. There is one model higher, but it's a European one, the 610. The only difference is you get an internal 64 gigs of memory. And it also has a 3-inch LCD screen, and you can't really see it too well because of the backlighting, but that's lever right there is your projector focus. We'll go over that a little later anyway, because got to set everything up. So how does it do? Well, first off, before we get to that, let's go at performance and overall appearance. It's a relatively small camcorder. I mean, it's a little big, but not quite as big as Patchy the Pirate, which is their 3D offering. And it does feel like unfortunately, it feels like it's a cheap build. It feels like most of this case is actually hollow, which might be part of the reason why the sound quality appears a little bit on the tinny side. Not that it's horribly bad. I've had camcorders that had far worse microphones than this, and I'm not talking El Cheapos either. So it also seems that most of this body is hollow, which, like I said, might be part of the problem. But it just doesn't feel quite as durable either. Now the viewfinder feels pretty good. That's alright. Of course, when we open it, of course we get the standard aim that way. You can do selfies that way. Yo. And you can see I'm using Patchy the Pirate, the 3D camera that doesn't really work in 3D all that well. And you can also, bang, fold it back like that so it's nice and compact. And there's it's balanced. It's got a balance steady shot. So as you can see as I move the camera around, the lens is also bobbing around. There you go. That's a good view of it right there. And to enhance it, you can also include the active steady shot, which adds a digital image stabilization on top of this. At full zoom will give you 60x, 30 times zoom if you turn off the active mode. So, okay, let me get that where I can. The touch screen seems to be a little bit on the dead side on this. I've had issues in which I would touch the screen and nothing would happen. Kind of sucks, but more times than not it is working. And one of the features it has is when you touch the screen, you can see on the right there that it only shows for a few seconds. You got 3 buttons that appear. There's a feature on this camera called My Button, and you can select the 3 options that when you touch it will come up. And you can adjust them on the fly instead of going through the entire menu system to adjust them. In my case, I have the okay, yeah, I'm trying to do this through another viewfinder. In this case, I have the exposure, and that one's by default. That's the autofocus. And I never change this one. This is dual recording, and that is another feature this camera has, is if you have that turned on, which I don't, it will record in both advanced codec high def and MP4, for which you can use the latter for uploading to YouTube directly, which I never recommend, but you never know. Sometimes it works, sometimes not so much. That's why I always use video editors. Personally, I would just not really bother with the extra MP4, only because it's just going to waste the space you could use for recording. Even though I honestly say that the advanced codec high def format is actually just a bit bloated versus the MP4, which it looks pretty much identical. You need a really super professional quality sensor that doesn't get snowy when the image gets dark in order to really enjoy advanced codec over MP4. But, you know, a video editor, and you're good to go. Because the advanced codec, the .mts format that they're using here, apparently somebody has tried to upload to YouTube and it didn't work. Not sure if they did something wrong or it just doesn't happen to work. Okay, so we got that. Yep. As you can see, the mic there, 5.1 channel. It's a surround sound, which are the grill holes here, which is the same as on here on Patchy, and that one down there, which might be part of why you get this tinny sound effect, because you're getting reflections off the ground rather than sort of a more direct approach, which actually that isn't really direct, but you get the idea. So I went around and I recorded stuff, and I found that the image quality is actually pretty good, does very well, and when you're doing the dark areas or you're going about in the dark, the image does get quite a bit fuzzy, and you can see the video compression of the advanced codec HD. So it tends to get slightly blurry unless you hold things still. The viewfinder will make things look darker than what it is, because some of the video I recorded, it looked like I was looking at just a black shape, when in fact it was actually reading stuff that was engraved on this black stone. So before we show you the video quality and all that stuff, which there are some pluses and some minuses, we're gonna take a look at the projector and how it works, because you're not gonna get the full audio quality. And one thing I have forgot to mention is I can't open it, but there we go. If you want an external light, because this does not have one, you can put an external light or other option here on this shoe. That's another negative. There's no light that came with it. And I don't even think it has a... Well, it supposedly has a flash, so I'm surprised that it can't double as a light during recording. So, next step is we're going to check out the projector, and I'm going to set it up in another room, and it'll be a little messy because I have to kind of accommodate for things to make it work. So we'll pick it up there. Alright, I've set this up, attached to a computer, and what we're going to do is display how well the projector works. And how we're going to do that is through this HDMI cable first, then we'll play videos directly off the camera. Now, as you see here in this, or can you, we have this projector button right here, which then the machine turns itself off as I'm trying to demonstrate it. So what I'm going to do now is hit the projector button after I turn the power on again. Yep, after I turn on the power, there we go. Just a little lag there. Now I hit the projector button. Now you're given options. Images shot on this device or images from an external. And right now I got this hooked up to my computer, so we're going to just do external. And then it tells you how to do everything, like hit the focus button and what have not. And then when everything's ready, it's ready to project. And there's, albeit really tiny right now, the projector in action. And one thing is that you really, really, really got to be careful about touching this little area here, because if you get any smudges or marks or what have not, you can see the haze around that image. It is going to show. And you can also see some color banding. That's just the camera functioning. And it is a it is a red, green, blue LED array. And if we change the exposure, that will not help. But yeah, you can sort of see them a little bit. But if I go to shutter speed here on Patchy the Pirate, if it wants to cooperate, there we go. And rotate it faster, you can see that we have red, green, blue. And as you can see, it seems to have more of green in it than it does red and blue. So everything will have a slight green image to it, not that big of a deal. Also, what I want to do now is set the shutter speed there, so it's not what I want. There we go. So now it's set to what I want, so it doesn't do anything that I don't want it to do. Alright, I'm going to try and clear this up because, like I said, if you touch the display, it'll just streak. I'm going to just do it with my finger right now. There it is. And I touch this. And when you touch the LCD, the projector shuts off, which can be a pain. Image from external device. Prepare. And there we go. Yeah, it's a little sharper. But I'm going to mess around with it, and when we come back, I'll move things around so the image is a little bigger and hopefully a little cleaner looking. Alright, using the slider on top of the viewfinder, which is very hard to do because as soon as you touch the display, it'll shut itself off. That's kind of a pain in the butt feature there. What we're doing right now is just testing the integrity of the display. And as we can kind of see, it is fairly clear, considering that it's only a 640 by 360 DLP light engine display. As you can kind of see, some of the detail is a little blurry. I'll just mess with it a little bit more just to see if it can get a little better, and well, that's about as good as that's going to get. So, yeah, the clarity, considering its image size, is pretty good. Color quality seems to be fairly good as well, even though it has more green LEDs than the red and blue. Picture tends to be fairly balanced, surprisingly. Although you can still kind of get a hint from that. The green is a little bit stronger than the other colors. Next pattern, again, it's just to show off the clarity. And of course it's, like I said, low res. And by the way, every camera has the exact same projector in it, so it doesn't matter what model number, the projector will be the same. So the image will look the same if you have the same set that I'm using now anyway. And then again, another color pattern there. And we got that. So now I'm done with that, and I'm going to touch the display to shut off the projector. And now what I'm going to do is we are now going to hit the projector button again. And this time, instead of external device, we hit the image shot on this device, gives you the same thing. And off screen we go. Well, I guess I got a little bit of play here. There we go. Now we just needed to, I could just shift the camera a little bit. Again, we're going to just get the focus knob. I don't know if I'm in the shot. If I am, I apologize. There we go. It's a fairly decent looking image, and we are aiming a bit too high. There we go. And yeah, you're going to hear some external noise. Now, when you're projecting an image, and I'm going to turn on the lights and move the camcorder for a moment, because your screen right there, I'm trying to hold this right, because the screen right here is off, you have to use the zoom lens left to move left, and I'm trying to get this in shot, and right to move right. This is really hard to do. And to select something or say okay, you hit the photo button. It's kind of odd. It's something you got to get used to, and you got to kind of cleverly maneuver to get through certain menus. But overall, it's not too bad. Let's just get this back the way it was. It would be the greatest. There we go. Good enough. So now we're gonna, let me duck down here so I'm out of the picture here. See, I'm using the zoom out button to move left, zoom in to move to the right, and then the photo button to select. And I don't have too many videos right now, so I mean, just play one anyway. And you can use that, as you saw those buttons there, you can use that to maneuver the controls, such as, oh, come on, stay still, and left, right, again. The sound quality from the internal speaker, let me move this again, it likes to move a lot. It's not really all that bad, although it sounds slightly tinny because it's kind of echoing inside the viewfinder a little bit. As you can probably see, well, if you're from Boston, you would know the true colors of everything. Everything's a little bit greenish because, again, for every one red and blue LED they use when they make the image, there's 2 green. So everything's a little bit on the greenish side. But overall, I mean, the image quality is not all that bad. It's very quick responding. The DLP sensor is very quick responding. The contrast ratio is a little lackluster. It's like 1500 to 1 or somewhere around there. It's not that bad for its intent. And again, like I say, you use your viewfinder to your zoom in, zoom out to move around, and photo to select. That is a little hard to get used to, but that is something that you can get used to fairly easily once you do it a little bit. And like I said, when you're going through the actual camera menus, which I don't know why in this case, it takes a little finagling to get the prompt to go where you want. And that's what we got. And now, just to demonstrate I'm going to unplug this because we don't need that anymore. And take this off the... There we go. That's the image. We're about 6 feet away. And we got roughly a simulated 120 watts of light going through here. As you can see, it's a bit dark for something that big. But if you're... This was what I was originally projecting on, but then I realized it has some bright spots. Yeah, like you can see it's a little bright in the middle there. So I wanted something a little more even, but still on a matte surface around, like 3-4 feet away with 120 watt light, perfectly fine. And yes, I have tremors, so I can't hold the camera still. So let's shut her off. Messy table, we all love that. And yeah, I got the shoe still on the bottom of Patchy here. So is this camera worth purchasing? Well, we're going to discuss that a little later, because right now I got some test footage and we're going to view that now. This is a tested image stabilization as well as its capability of zooming 60x, 60 times that is. Right now what I'm going to do is shake the camera. Yes, there will be some bobbing and weaving, that is the whole point. That might have been my hair you heard, because I'm trying to listen for the camera making noise. Okay, that's that. Now we're going to zoom in. We're way away from that Littleton 495 sign. I'm going to zoom all the way into it in 60 times. There we go. And that's with my left hand. You probably can even read it. I believe that's the line we're on right there. Now I'm going to switch over to my unsteady hand, and I'm going to aim back to what I saw and let go. Yeah. Still, it's pretty good considering 60x zoom and the image stabilization. Now I'm back to the left hand, the one that's relatively stable. There we kind of go. That's quite a bit of zooming power. I also have Route 2 and 495 right there. They intersect. Actually, that's a on and off ramp. But there's the highway itself. There's 495 right there where the cars are. There, that zoomed in all the way 60 times. Because I got the active image stabilization on. I am not going to toggle it on and off, because it's going to be a horror show if I turn it off. And that is, can we see it? There it is. Barely can see it. There we go, that's Route 2, which, there's a car. Alright, as I walk around, I'm going to hit this narration canceling button, which, if you press it, is supposed to aim the microphone audio more towards the front of the camera so you hear less of me, which is not necessarily a bad thing. This is how it is normal. Here it is with the cameraman cancellation type thing, which I forget exactly what it's called. And back to normal. Alright, I'm very convinced the image stabilization is great, and the zoom is excellent. So we got that much. Now what we need to do is a darkness test. So we're going to do that next, in another location. This is the nighttime test. I'm walking through my neighborhood in the dark. I do notice I do not have the flexibility that the 3D Sony camcorder had. I could get the brightness to appear similar to how we people see things, but not doable. So the intensity is just a little darker than, or in some cases a lot darker than you would see it. However, in terms of cameras, it's not terribly bad. It doesn't seem to be losing focus, although I am watching where I'm going and not the viewfinder at all times. I also have noticed, and I'll bring it up just in case you forgot, or I forgot to mention it in the review, is that after listening to Andrew Reams's test footage, the microphone is just a tad tinny. It's not all that bad, really. So, yeah, I mean, it's plenty forgivable if you're not an audiophile, which I'm not. So here we are. We're going to walk through a park that closes at dusk. Needless to say, not supposed to really be here, but I don't care really. So just walk a little through here. So anyway, yes, I found the mic is a little bit tinny, but it's not all that bad. It's still one of the better microphones I've had on a camcorder. In fact, compared to the camcorder, which was my first HD one that had the 8mm tapes, it's quite superior. I believe the reason that it sounds tinny isn't because of the microphone quality. It's because, as I've mentioned in the video initially, unless I forgot again, I'm just always stating that just in case, is that this camcorder does feel quite a bit hollow. Like, most of the body really is nothing but dead space. So maybe the sound is reverbing quite a bit in the case, because there is a button that projects sound away from the user, and in actuality pretty much does nothing more than muffle the sound to the extent that you don't really hear anything. Now right here, it kind of makes it almost look better than what we can see, although that's definitely different. Here's the war memorial. It's actually showing up a lot better on screen than it does to the human eye. Probably because when it's lit well enough, you can see. So, I mean, it doesn't seem to be losing focus. I'm not 100% sure if it is or isn't. I'll just move to the side just in case it is actually capturing that. In fact, let me get a more direct look at it. Let me switch hands here and change the angle. There we go. This is to see how well it looks at things in the dark. I'm not expecting it to read any of these stones. Actually, it seems to be reading that in defense of freedom. I shouldn't have said anything, because that way we would definitely know if it's picking it up or not. This one, yeah, this is proving my point that it's not. The other camera probably could do this, but this one is not. You just see black. I can actually read that. Leominster servicemen killed in action in Vietnam. And it has some names there. Or a circle. This one's just barely visible, but plenty visible to the naked eye. So, I mean, it depends on how the camera wants to handle it. But still, you know, from what I'm seeing so far, it's not really that bad. And I do have the low light function turned on all the way. So what I'm going to do now is to give this thing a little more of a fair shot with the camera operator voice canceling or thingy-majiggy. I always keep forgetting what the name of that button is. We're going to go right out here to the street, and we're going to listen to cars passing directly in front of us. It seems that the focus is holding quite well. Let's actually just stop and see if we can zoom in on anything. It might be just a bit too intense. Yeah, we can go right into the... I let go of... I was holding it with both hands. The Tedeschi food sign. There, now we're at 60x. Keeping in mind that it's 30x if you don't have active image stabilization on, which, by the way, it is on, because I am not very steady-handed. Andrew can get away with not using it. I have to, or it's pretty much an earthquake simulator. Anyway, before we head onto the street, it looks like the frame rate's suffering a little bit from the dark. Yeah, you almost can't see anything in there. In fact, it's losing focus as it's trying to pick up on something. See, this is where I wish an external light was part of the package, but apparently in the package, in terms of what's built into the camcorder, that's something Patchy the Pirate had. So, alright, let's head right out here onto the street. You can hear the cars going by. So what I'm going to do is, when a car is about to go by, I'm going to hit that, I'm trying to find it, there it is. There's the monologue canceling button there. Alright, let's listen to some cars, and as they go by, I will hit it. Right now. Alright, I turned it back on. Let's listen to it again, without. And with. If my voice sounds the same as the cars do going by, this feature is horrible at best. It makes drive-through speakers sound like it's the most epic of hi-fi systems ever created in the world. Alright, back to normal. Like I said, not the best microphone, but I've had much worse than this. It's still actually better than the TX series of Sony cameras. But that's because your voice and other sounds are badly over-compressed. Here's St. Leo's School. Let's see if we can zoom in on some of the detail of the building, like the square glass. There we go. Get in real tight. Look at that. It makes my lost focus there, but there it is. It makes my very shaky, my very unstable hand seem very, very stable. So that's the night test. And there's the Carter Park sign, which is, well, depending on how you're viewing it. Yeah, it also depends on how you're viewing the viewfinder, because I notice a great difference at times. We'll end it here at this statue. As if I look directly at it, it seems to be lit fairly decently. But if I look at it from above, it looks like I'm staring at nothing but black. But I could be indeed doing just that, staring at black. Statue doesn't really appear, but then again, it's actually kind of dark in person too. Alright, twisting around the viewfinder so I can see what I'm doing. Can we read some names? Yes, we can. Just picking up some random names, hoping that you can see that. So yes, it actually does pretty good. I mean, I've seen better, but it's not bad. Alright, here's the ultimate test. Can we see the face? First off, can I? Not really. So much for that test. Let me get that light. Yeah, get rid of that halo effect. Yeah, you can barely see a difference between the sky and the statue there. Yeah, it's hit and miss. Depending on what it thinks the light level is, depends on whether or not it does a good job or not. And we're going to end it by trying to read some of these tougher bricks. I can see them. And apparently the camera cannot. Well, there, it's locked in. I don't know if you can read it. But this is the test. It might appear better in the actual video than it does on the viewfinder. Maybe worse. Don't know. That's what the test is for. And that is the dark test. A little long, but got the job done. it doesn't make sense to just test the video, so here are photos. This is of Patchy the Pirate with kind of dark light, and as you can see, it gets a little grainy as it gets a little darker, but it's not terribly bad, not the best, but not really that bad. Here's another view of Patchy the Pirate, this time with the shades drawn so it was dark. As you can see, it gets a bit fuzzy looking. Nonetheless, the sensitivity is halfway decent. Here's Patchy the Pirate again in the dark, this time in photo mode. All it really does is just softens the image so that the noise isn't as apparent. So it might not work too well depending on what you're trying to shoot a photo of. What I failed to tell you was when I was showing you the buttons on the viewfinder, when I was showing you my buttons, on the lower right there was another button that toggles between photo and video, and that's how I got into photo mode doing this. I figured let's give it a good chance to show off, so I took a picture outside my bedroom window, and unfortunately I can't walk around because it's raining today, so this is what you get from there. And I did take some more out my back door, and we'll take a look at those next. Here's a view of some fall foliage, what's left of it in early November, that is. Now we're going to test the zoom capability. We are going to zoom in on that high rise to the full 60x ability, that is 30x optical, plus a little extra gained by active steady shot. Here's a view at 60 times zoom. Of course, there will be a little bit of digitization, which is normal when you go extreme on any active steady shot on a Sony camera, but most of the blur is actually from the inability to hold it perfectly still, so you need a really super steady hand or a tripod to get away with that one. This photo is just more or less give you an idea on how tight it zoomed into the building. And again, the picture we actually started with. Photo quality, which I did not cover, actually is okay so long as the brightness is good. Once it starts getting dark, you might want to use photo mode, but if it's too dark, it's judgment call there. It's probably best to take a picture both in photo and camcorder mode, just so that you would have one over the other that you might prefer. That way you don't lose a moment as good as you can possibly get it at that point. And that's the photo reviews. Alright, that's the full-blown test of the PJ540. I will let you know that if you buy a different version of this camera, whether it's a little less or a little more, the only differences you'll get are dot counts on the screen, the how many pixels the sensor will have, and usually more on the photo end of things. But the projector and pretty much everything else is identical. So overall, I did find that the video quality is very good on this. The image stabilization is remarkable. I have very shaky hands and I can barely hold a camera still, and when I zoomed in onto that MBTA signboard, you could actually read the stops that are along the branches that I focused in on. That is quite amazing, and that's with the 60x, which is the equivalent of 30x with the active shot turned on. With it turned off, you only get 30. With it on, it becomes 60. That kind of butchered that up a little bit. And in the dark, now the YouTube video may severely compress things and kind of ruin it a little bit, but when I was reading that black monument for the Vietnam War, the text did barely appear and it was readable, and the camera did stay well focused on it. And the bricks that were in the walkway, those were also nice and clear and very readable, even the darker ones. So if that didn't show up on YouTube, it did show up in the actual video. The projector for 25 lumens is surprisingly bright, but of course it's just a tiny projector, so don't expect to go project like a theater-size image. You can get away with, you know, like 120 inches or so, but you gotta have a perfectly dark room to do it. Image from the projector is slightly green because of the way that most of these LED backlit projectors work, whether it's DLP, LCOS, or what have not. Usually 2 green for every 1 red and blue. So, yes, this camera works rather well. The ability to see in the dark is a lot better than it shows on the viewfinder, but then again, the viewfinder is LCD, and LCDs are known to not have the best contrast, especially viewfinders, since its purpose is to simply show you what's there in the most basic of ways. So that's what we got for you. That's the review of the PJ540. It works with, this review will work with any of the lesser or greater models to come, because I'm sure that for the most part it'll be fairly identical. No, the review is a bit long, but there you have it. And that is it. Georgia 551 saying, hope you enjoy, and have a good one.